Hi, everyone. Kathy Rose here. I'm going to talk to you about the second half of August. And we're going to begin with a new moon in Leo, which takes place on August 16th at 5:38 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The second half of August has a lot of drama. The first half of August also did, but it gets deeper as we get into the second half. So let's explore this. We begin with the new moon in Leo. We are going to have the sun and the moon exactly square to Uranus. And Uranus is connected to originality and freedom and awakening, being true to self, which is why I chose this incredible photo of the lion on the right side of the screen. This is a funky lion, a lion who is allowing himself to be different. And that is a major theme for this new moon in Leo. It doesn't mean you have to go dye your hair blue or purple. It doesn't mean you have to get a gigantic tattoo. It just means be true to your original self and release the fear that other people might judge you. And it is so important to pay attention to that right now and radiate heartfelt energy and unconditional love for self in your unique way. The Venus retrograde that is taking place during this new moon in Leo is triggering some drama in human relationships. I don't know about you, but I've noticed it. Many examples of it. Very strong dramatic reactions. So it might be around you, other people reacting dramatically, but it doesn't mean you need to. You know, Uranus adds a humanistic energy. So part of the theme for this new moon is to remember we are all connected. We are all learning, growing souls. We need to cut each other some slack and to move to higher levels. Because there's another theme that's taking place during this new moon in Leo, and that is, of course, Pluto squaring the nodal axis. I've talked about that many times. This is the dynamic change that is taking place with power levels, hierarchical systems. And in addition to that, for this new moon in Leo, we have Mercury and Mars conjunct in Virgo. Now, Mercury Mars conjunct in Virgo can be exceptionally beautiful because it can add motivational energy to getting things done and being efficient and being precise. It can go too far, though, if it's expressed on the shadow, and it can be cranky communication. It can be critical communication. It can be assertive communication, especially if it's linked with Leo drama. Now, you might see some of that happening. And if you do, I suggest taking a deep breath and cutting everybody some slack. I suggest avoiding a dramatic reaction if you're around somebody who is getting fussy, cranky, critical, maybe even mean. Sometimes it happens with energy patterns like this. I'm not projecting it. I don't want to create that, but it's possible. Take a deep breath and model a different reaction, because there is so much good that can come from this new moon in Leo. Really underneath this all, we are starting new leadership dynamic that is bringing the feminine energy forward. If you watch my Maverick podcast, I did an episode recently with my good friend Agnes Belesne, and she's a feng shui practitioner and expert. She's amazing. And we talked about how we are ending an 8 period right now in the Chinese approach. And the 8 period really did favor men, the male dynamic. And we are entering a new 20-year cycle, which is a 9 period. And in the 9 period, the matriarch comes forward, the feminine energy comes forward. And it is so palpable right now. If you're watching TV shows that are streaming, you're going to find many shows are popping up right now where women are playing main leadership roles. And the same with movies that are coming out. So this is happening. And it's not all just about women. It's about feminine frequency in general, because within us all, we have the masculine and feminine frequency. Feminine frequency of leadership has more heart connected. has a little less dynamic, extroverted ego, and has a softer edge to it, less connected to needing to be the alpha and more connected to using heart energy to lead. So that's a pattern that is starting to flourish right now. So let's talk about the Mercury retrograde real quick here. On the left side of the screen is a mandala I made many years ago. I love this mandala. It is one of my absolute favorites. I recall creating this one so vividly. I call it the healing mandala. And I am adding this to the Mercury retrograde because there's an enormous amount of healing that can happen when Mercury retrogrades in Virgo. Mercury is very strong in this sign. It begins on August 23rd, and it begins the retrograde at 21 degrees of Virgo, and it stays in the retrograde phase until September 15th, at which point, when it goes stationary direct, it will be 8 degrees Virgo. So it will back up to 8-degree Virgo. Now, if you have planets or angles between 8 and 21 degrees Virgo, you are going to receive the special frequencies of Mercury for that entire period. And that can be exceptionally productive in your body, mind, and spirit. But even if you don't have planets or angles in that degree zone, you may feel a special need to clean up your life, clean up your diet, clean up your house, organize things, get things done, look at the details. And it can be exceptionally beautiful and productive. Release your fear of Mercury retrograde. Certainly, you want to double check details, but you want to think in terms of the fact that a special kind of clarity may come forward during this Mercury retrograde. We have a few other things I want to talk about real quick, and that is on August 27th, Mars leaves Virgo and enters Libra. I'm kind of looking forward to that because Mars entering Libra is going to bring in a bit more cooperation after we've had this very dynamic time with Venus retrograde in Leo and, Mars conjunct Mercury in Virgo. Mars entering Libra is going to add some softness. We're also on August 28th going to have Uranus beginning the retrograde. It stays retrograde until January of 2024. And the reason this is important is because Uranus begins the retrograde at 23 Taurus, and it starts to trigger something very important that's going to come together in the spring of 2024. So I would say to you, toward the end of the month, start paying attention to what kind of new awarenesses you're having related to being in the now, related to your ability to trust and release control and to flow and to release expectations, to release your attachment of things working out in a certain way. Because coming up in April of 2024, we're going to have Jupiter conjunct Uranus at 21 degrees Taurus. And so if you have planets around 21, 22, 23 degree Taurus, or any of the fixed signs, which would be Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, you are going to receive a jolt of beautiful energy in the spring that will move your life forward. Now, if you don't know if you have planets there, schedule a consultation. We'll talk about it. I will alert you to what area of life is most going to be affected by this. But I would urge you again to just pay attention towards the end of August and early September, how you're doing with your ability to tap into adventure, to tap into the now, and the superpower that comes from releasing expectation and attachment, because that moves forward at some new level in the spring of 24. All right, one last thing. Let's talk about the full moon in Pisces. It's the second full moon of the month. This full moon in Pisces is such a spectacular energy because the sun will be opposite not only the moon, but also Saturn. So Saturn and the moon conjunct in Pisces. And the flavor of this full moon is beautiful in that it carries compassion. It carries forgiveness. It carries the next level energy that is necessary to release inner criticism. So that begins first with that Mercury retrograde in Virgo going on starting August 23rd, going to mid-September. And at this full moon in Pisces at the end of August, be ready to have some epiphanies or breakthroughs that help you explain why you might criticize yourself, and that may help you to release those patterns. The interesting thing about this full moon is it's going to require you to step into a new level of emotional and spiritual discipline, an emotional and spiritual authority. This one is very deep. I love it. You know, the other thing that's happening during this full moon is we have a lot of planets that are retrograde. We will have Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde in Leo, Uranus retrograde in Taurus, Neptune retrograde in Pisces, Saturn retrograde in Pisces, and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. So what that says is it's a profound internalization period. Go within, digest the spiritual awarenesses you have, understand yourself, and make the corrections that you need to make in order to flourish and flow. So it begins with that new moon in Leo, mid-August, and then it takes it to a much deeper integrated level at the full moon in Pisces. The full moon in Pisces is about digesting all the activity that is percolating right now. What a great opportunity. Okay, my final thoughts for the second half of August is to focus on body, mind, spirit balance. And it is so important to not only get your diet in balance, get your exercise in balance, but to get your belief system and your thoughts and your words in balance with your higher self. It may be challenging this month. There is dramatic energy. There are a lot of challenges, and it's not just challenges within our own life, but there's quite possibly going to be challenges with other people's behavior. And then you get to choose how you respond. In one of the most recent videos I did, I talked about unconditional positive regard. And I would bring that up one more time. Carl Rogers, the psychologist, mentioned unconditional positive regard was his leadership model in humanistic psychology. What a great phrase, right? So if you step into that, it's so beautiful, and you will be manifesting the highest potential for August. All right, bye for now. I look forward to seeing you at the September video forecast. I'll be releasing that at the end of August. Be well.